All right, you guys, welcome to Hope Ignited.
Welcome back.
We have an artistic episode for you today. If you are not watching on YouTube, look, here's the thing. We love our audio audiences. We love the people that listen on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast.
Shopping, working out, we get it.
Yeah, we understand that Kevin's not always tan. I'm not always skinny.
Hey, by the way, yesterday, I meant to tell you this. Yesterday, I was walking through the room and I heard this bubbly Southern girl talking on my wife's phone. And I was like, oh, that girl has a, effervescent voice. And then I heard this nasally, nerdy guy talking. And I go, she's listening to our podcast.
Stop it.
So my wife was listening to our podcast. So literally my impression of myself not knowing myself is that I sound awful. I sound like Kermit the Frog with a head cold.
Okay, Patrick Mahomes in the flesh. You're here. Thank you.
Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here. That's not that was just me talking as Kevin.
Well, here's the thing. So if you don't like listening to Kermit the Frog and a duck sounding bubbly, what was the big word you used about me? Yeah.
Can you spell that?
Could not.
Can you spell it in lipstick?
At one point, I do need to tell you a spelling bee story, but you guys have to watch this episode on YouTube. Yeah. We are going to do art today, and we're going to get to that in here in just a second. But first, let's just talk about our amazing guest, Katherine Mason. Mm-hmm. She was like an insane artist.
We already interviewed her.
Larger than life. Mm-hmm. I mean, she was incredibly well spoken. I think one of my favorite things about her is she doesn't even consider herself an influencer, but she should be an influencer.
Right.
Everything she spoke about, it just pumped me up. It hyped me up. She made me feel like I could, run faster, jump higher, that type of thing. But she just has an incredible story. She's a believer.
Yeah.
I just was so encouraged by everything that she had to say. And she has a really unique medium.
Yeah. And when you're around real artists, there's people who do art,
These are things we're not used to.
Hobby
We're not used to being around real artists.
But when you're around a real artist, someone, they just think differently.
Yeah.
They're kind of just different. Like they approach life outside of the box, so to speak. I love being around people like that, but I love talking to people like that. So it was a fascinating conversation, picking her brain.
I think one of my favorite things is to your point, she knows who she is, and she is just all unapologetically Katherine, right? I remember one thing you said is, do you ever feel like you have to be a little bit quirky because you're an artist? But her outfit, her makeup, her hair, her jewelry, everything about her is just so uniquely Katherine. And I think that's such a cool thing. But one of the things that she does, and the way that we actually got connected with her, is that she paints with lipstick.
Right.
So you'll hear a lot about it in the episode, but essentially she will get lipstick donations of women that are currently going through breast cancer or that have survived breast cancer, and they will mail these tubes of lipstick to her, and she will curate art for that individual or for others maybe that want to collect it. And she just does amazing stuff. You'll get to see a lot of her pieces during our episode. But, we kind of thought to ourselves, how hard could that be?
Well, yeah. I mean, apparently it's ridiculously hard, because it's a wax or something.
Yeah.
But, Ashley and I were like, we could give it a run.
100%. So we thought today for our intro, in addition to talking about Katherine and how amazing she is, that we would give her medium a shot.
Yeah. Ashley, you went to Target at 7 o'clock?
Sure
this
did,
morning
which is pretty much what I do.
These boards. So
5
y'all
days a
better
week.
Appreciate this, because Ashley went out.
Before coffee, BC.
Bleary-eyed, standing in the Frisco Target.
Yeah. If you saw me, don't tell anybody what I look like.
What aisle is this even on?
I look like a homeless, braless wonder. Yeah. Yes, this isn't a school supply. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to paint each other. We have a producer standing by with a clock. We have 5 minutes.
We're painting on canvases.
With lipstick.
Yeah. Painting each other with canvases.
Fun fact, I had a harder time finding where the lipstick was at Target, clearly, than I did all of this stuff.
That's so snobby. You probably buy fine French, Louisiana.
Sure don't. It's chapstick SPF 50, baby. SPF 50. Okay, so
what are we doing?
5 minutes. 5 minutes on the clock. You have a tube of lipstick. You are going to paint me. I am going to paint you. And we will get, it's going to be amazing. We are going to get warnings along the way. And then at 5 minutes, we have to reveal, and you have to go first. You have to reveal first.
Okay.
All
right.
Okay.
And then you guys can judge on who knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and just so you know, this isn't like we're gonna be chatting during this. It's not gonna be boring. So
it's dead air for 5 minutes.
Don't look
and
at
then
mine.
Reveal.
Do not promise. You can't look.
What, for inspiration?
100. That's obviously what you'll be doing. Okay. What? 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes. Okay. Here we go.
Here we go. Starting out.
So
got to get the.
I have a question for you. I
don't even know what it initially feels like. Oh gosh, we're off to a bad start, guys.
Please make me skinny and tan. What? Oh gosh.
You already have a goiter going out the side of your head, so sorry about that.
Stop using words that I have to Google later.
An effervescent goiter. That's a band I went and saw back in Deep Ellum in the early 2000s.
Stop distracting me from greatness. All right. Speaking of what's happening right now, what is the worst piece of art you've ever seen or created?
This one I'm currently making.
Same. Same.
The worst. Okay. Well, I made one when I was a kid, and it was a penguin. We were supposed to make a penguin out of paper mache.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I wasn't an artist. I mean, honestly, nothing was coming together. But I wish I had a picture of it. This is before we had cameras.
You probably burned it.
We had the kind of cameras that you had to stand there for 35 seconds and with a hood over your head.
Yeah. And then you had to take it to what store was it at the time to get it? Harvest Foods to get the film produced.
Eckerd's. But anyway, so the penguin that I've only drawn the shape of your head. So this is a good stall tactic. And I didn't mean to look, but I can kind of see on the giant confidence monitor, it looks like I'm an alien.
Mine's good. Okay. Mine's real good.
But anyway, no, this penguin was horrendous. It looked like something out of your nightmares. And
do you remember that my first job was a penguin? I was a giant penguin. I was Mo.
What are you talking about?
I was Mo at Eskimos. I was a life-size mascot of a penguin. Literally.
Really?
Yeah. And
did you get paid for it, or did you just do it for fun?
No, that was my job. I work at Eskimos, Frozen Custard, and more. And my nose is running. I was the 3 minutes. Oh my gosh, 3 minutes. I was the mascot. And one time these boys drove by in a Toyota Tundra and they threw a 2-liter Sprite bottle out of the window full of sand, and it hit me in the beak, and the inside of the beak is wood, and I fell backwards. And like on A Christmas Story, I couldn't get up. It was
my gosh.
It was real weird. I don't know.
What if that's how you died? I've always had a fear of dying
dressed in a penguin costume,
way, like some just ignorant way like that. Like you die in a penguin costume with kids kicking you.
Would you consider yourself artistic?
No, that's my point. That's when I saw the penguin, it was just a very defining moment for me where I am not an artist. And
are you drawing me today in this outfit or like in life?
Well, no. I mean,
you have small ears.
Gosh, it got worse and worse.
Do you know that you have small ears? Can you consider yourself someone with small ears? In my picture, you have
kind of.
Do you think you have
good ears? I got good ears, but a giant nose.
What about make a bigger nose?
A little kid told me that one time. When I was 16 years old, and I was volunteering for some school thing, literacy thing, and I was helping little 7-year-old kids, I think.
Yeah.
And this little kid was sitting on my knee, and he's like, I'm supposed to be reading to him, and he looks up at my nose, and he goes,
"Are you actually Santa Claus?
You have a giant nose." And this is at the time when when you're 16 or so, 15, 16 years old, you don't you feel like
I don't know what's happening.
You don't know what's going on with your face, and you're just like, am I handsome? Am I pretty? Whatever, right? You're kind of looking outside to other people to try to figure out
how long.
And so anyway, I felt like, oh my gosh, I have the biggest nose in the world. This little kid said that, and it was like a crisis. And then finally I was like, yeah, he's kind of right, in the right lighting. Oh, I just turned. Oh, wow. You're going to love this, Ashley.
I have.
Oh my gosh, you got a minute?
How detailed are you getting in the arm hair? Are you drawing arm hair? Or you're not that? Is yours more Picasso? Hold on. This is really good. I don't know what to do. It's really hard to do it with one color. I don't know how she does this. What size do you think your neck is? Like normal neck? Big
it's
neck?
Big, actually.
Bigger than, I need a bigger neck. You have a big neck. Oh. Do I have time for shoes? Do you have time? This is going to be so good.
Honestly, this is about as good as I'm going to get.
15 seconds. Oh my word. Okay. This is real weird. I don't know what I just did. Okay. It looks a lot like you have chicken pox, but that was not what I intended.
This is riveting audio for the audience, by the way, while I'm just immersed. Okay. All right. I mean, honestly,
mine's real good.
It ain't ready for
Mine's good.
The MoMA in New York, Museum of Modern Art for the uninitiated.
Do you think
or the Louvre?
Do you feel like you're stealing Catherine's job though?
Catherine is going to be like, I told you when she sees this how hard it is.
Okay, I want you to go first.
Okay. All right. Here we go, world. Hi. Howdy, y'all. I'm Ashley Miller. I ended up getting, a couple features I went for. I wanted to get the long hair and long long lashes. I gave you like some little collared shirt thing. I don't know. It's like a schoolgirl thing or something. That's weird. This is Freudian. And then I gave the one thing I made sure I got right was the tiniest legs possible. Legs ratio to body. That. So I made you very short. Notice the leg ratio to your head. You can fit 8 legs
vertically challenged.
The length of your head.
I look like the snake lady with the snake hair.
But I mean, it could be worse, right?
Looking,
you got the little sassy, hands on the hip thing.
You could have used the whole board for my right thigh. So I appreciate the twig legs. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean,
also, I've been in the gym because holy crap.
Oh, I know. I gave you biceps. I don't know what happened on that.
It's so good. Thank you for
Anyway,
are you ready?
I'll sign it too. We have to sign it for each other.
Oh, yes, that's good. That's
okay.
Good.
All right. Hit me.
Can these forever live in the studio behind us now?
They need to.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, I guess.
The thing is, I'm mad at myself because it kind of looks like you have a rash.
Well, but how did you know?
I tried to.
Okay.
Tried to smooth it out.
I mean.
All right. Here she is.
What? What? I'm so offended. This is worse than the little kid telling me I had a huge nose when I was a little kid.
Look how big your muscles are. Look at those biceps.
Those are not muscles. That's leprosy.
That's your arm hair.
That's leprosy. They're bubbles. I look like a crocodile.
I don't know.
What are all the dots?
I don't know what happened.
Why do I have measles?
I just thought it would get cooler if I textured it. But okay, look, I said Texas Tech.
I appreciate that, but I'm just trying to. I can't get over the Why do I have 3 sets of biceps? It's like a camel.
It's animated. You're a cartoon.
Oh, okay, animation. Okay, yeah, you should have drawn little little squiggly lines showing it. Okay, why do I have 1 tooth?
That's your tongue. You're laughing.
That's my tooth. I thought you were saying I got my teeth knocked.
Here's the thing.
This looks like probably your boyfriend from Louisiana, right? Your first boyfriend.
Except for the stupid shirt. I know, like right now, if I put this by that microphone, people would literally be like, weird. Is that Kevin? Is it not? I can't tell. Oh, yeah.
We look just like, okay, hold it up. All right.
Here, wait, people need to vote. Can people vote?
Reptilian arms. Or
at least you have a proportioned body.
Mine, where I gave her
I look like Dorf goes
biceps,
fishing.
Very tiny legs.
Very tiny.
Kind of Medusa hair, but it's nice.
Look,
its own way.
Let's just close out the show with these two. Okay, ready?
Which one won? Tell us in the comments.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Thanks for watching this episode of Hope Ignited. We hope you guys enjoy this episode with Katherine Mason.
Howdy, y'all.
I'm
Ashley Miller.
Go Tech. Welcome to Hope Ignited, you guys. We are so excited that you're here with us today.
Sure are.
You got to hear all about our amazing guest in her intro, but I tell you what, I genuinely thought we had the most artistic background of all time until we welcomed an actual artist. Help us welcome to the Hope Ignited table, Katherine Mason.
Hi, Katherine.
Guys, hi. How are y'all doing?
Good.
You're great.
We were literally just talking about your background is insane. What are we looking at? What do we see behind you right now?
So there's a variety of things. Over here is one of my lipstick paintings titled Toe to Toe. and I'll angle my camera a little bit so you can see it in its full. This lipstick painting was actually created using all of these lipstick tubes here that were donated to me from women all over the US in honor and in memory of family members and friends who've been through breast cancer. And then over this shoulder, I have a board here of a lot of the letters and the notes that I received along with those lipstick donations. So getting those lipsticks in the mail are always incredibly special to me. And I like to keep these up so that way when people come into my studio, they can read about all of these different people and they realize that the lipsticks that I paint with come from real people who've lived real lives and gone through real things in the cancer community.
That so much to dive into. I mean, that's so incredible. For people that maybe haven't been following your journey on social media or kind of the relationship that you happen to have with National Breast Cancer Foundation, you have been a blessing to us and a friend of mine for several years now. And this is an episode where selfishly, I'm really looking forward to Kevin getting to know you the same level that I do, because I think as Kevin falls in love with you, the world is going to fall in love with you once we have this opportunity.
That sounds like I have a critical decision to make of whether I'm going to fall in love with you or not.
A group or B group?
I feel like Simon Cowell. Okay, so you need to convince me.
Or you fired or you hired, right? You could be Donald.
You're fired.
But so for people, Katherine, that don't know, you are an artist. You mentioned the lipstick, and we're going to get into that here in just a second. But you didn't start off as an artist painting with lipstick. Kind of take us back to the beginning. I want to know when you knew you were good at art, because I literally wait for my kids to go to bed at night and then I throw away the majority of the things that they bring home from school. So am I destroying their dreams? Is that type of a mom?
So I will say this. I wouldn't say you're destroying their dreams, but one of my very vivid memories from my childhood is my parents would always put my art up on the fridge and on the walls all over the house, and they would always speak life over my art, and they would always talk about how wonderful it was and how beautiful it was, and that instilled confidence in me at a young age. And I remember thinking when I was young, like, wow, this is something I'm good at. Like, look at the reaction that my parents are giving me, you know? And I'm sure they threw a lot of my art away, but they also made sure to kind of encourage that when I was younger as well. And I will say, I don't think there's ever been a point where I've been like looking at my work and I'm like, wow, I'm a great artist. I think every artist is always their worst critic. And I'm sure they would agree with me, where even now I look at my work and, you know, when I finish a project, I love the way it turns out. But over time, I always see things I wish I could fix or I wish I could tweak. So I'm always trying to improve my skill set.
Yeah.
I think that every artist has a medium, and so every person is an artist, and they all have a medium. They just haven't discovered it yet. For me, photography became my medium because I like technical things. So I could never draw. When you're saying speaking life, I got death spoken over me on my art, but mainly by older brothers. Like, what is this crap? So anyway, I just could not draw growing up. Like, I mean, I think you do either have that or you don't.
No, 100%.
Like you can draw or you can't. Because I'd be in like fourth grade and, I'm the one kid that's trying to draw the Easter bunny or whatever. Yeah. And then there's like this girl next to me and she's doing all these beautiful lines. And then mine just looks like it, like I spilled coffee on it or something.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like Picasso. Like yours is like, if you turn your head one way, maybe that's what he meant to do.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it was terrible. It was like a drunk person or something. But
fine.
But anyway, I would growing up, I really truly thought that I'm not an artist. I'm terrible. I'm not talented. Music, I'm not a musician. And then I just sort of started discovering it on my own when I got in college. But I was always drawn towards art. So then when I became a photographer, I had to kind of like go, wait a minute, I'm a photographer, I'm an artist, and start talking to myself in those terms. And then that kind of freed me up. Like, did you always see yourself as an artist?
I think I always knew that art was something I loved. It was something that I always spent time doing, whether that was at school or at home. It was definitely always a hobby of mine. But, growing up, you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, wow, beautiful work, but don't want to become a starving artist." That was kind of the voice that was always in my head. And when I went to university, I got an art scholarship to the University of Oklahoma. And unfortunately, long story short, I got put in all beginners classes when I was supposed to be put in higher level classes because I had a lot of AP credits in high school.
Same.
And so unfortunately, I went to all my beginners classes. I hated them. I wasn't being challenged, and my grades started to slip. And at that point, I was very burnt out with art. So I wanted to go a different route. I wanted to do something that was creative, but something that would lead to a fulfilling career. And so I actually wanted to get into surgery. And I loved surgery. I did pre-med, and I unfortunately ended up having some health issues associated with stress. So I knew doing pre-med, if I went to med school and did residencies and all this stuff, the stress would only get higher and higher. So unfortunately, I had to say goodbye to that dream. So I went into advertising, and I thought that would be a creative outlet, and it was not at all. I hated it. Did that for a couple of years, and then I was kind of at this turning point of I was going to be offered a position in that company where I knew if I took it, I would be there for a while. And I knew I wasn't happy, and I was missing my art. And I just told myself, okay, this is kind of like a turning point. I either take this job or I decide to try doing art full time. And so I chose doing art full time, and I moved into my parents' house. I worked out of my bedroom, and I bought a bunch of canvases and built a series. And then I had my first art show, and I sold a bunch of stuff. And I remember that feeling of like, oh my God, I love this. Like, I want to do this again and again and again. And it's just grown over the years. But yeah, I still have a hard time. I'd say more so in the past, I had a really hard time saying I'm an artist when people ask you. I think every artist struggles with that. And I used to tell people I'm a full-time artist. And in my mind, when I spoke with someone, I was like, well, if I tell them I'm a full-time artist, they're going to take me serious as compared to an artist. Like, you do stuff on the side, you do stuff as a hobby. And I had an advisor at the time who said, you have to stop saying you're a full-time artist. And I was like, well, why? That sounds like so legit. She was like, no. She goes, if you meet a lawyer, do they tell you they're a full-time lawyer or a full-time surgeon? Like, an artist is an artist, and there is respect behind being an artist. And you have to be confident when you tell people I am an artist. You can't try to put a disclaimer behind that to try to, get a little bit more respect behind it. So I learned quickly, okay, I'm an artist.
Let's put that into existence right now. I'm a full-time podcast host.
Yeah.
What are you?
Let's see. I am a full-time, I don't even know.
Spray tan wearer.
We just, I had to. Oh, this is kind of a side note for the audience.
Painted with spray tan.
Right when we were going on the, right when we were just going on with Katherine. Like, I've never met her before this. And the first words, I was like talking to Ashley, and then she went live, and my microphone went hot. And I was saying something like, oh, the spray tan looked awful on me. And no, I was just saying how orange I was. And so anyway, yes, I'm a full-time spray tan wearer.
As somebody who appreciates hues and shades of color, wouldn't you agree that Kevin's tan is just spot on?
Well,
Katherine?
No, it's gone now. That's why it looks normal.
Glowing.
See, you're glowing.
No, I'm Welsh, so my skin didn't take to it. But
you're the right shade of bronze. Back to the task at hand.
We digress. I want to ask something going back to that. The concept of your identity. Like, I think that we all want to be known as something. And so I think there's probably a lot of mixed feelings in why you get that, because a lot of people want to say, like, they love art. And this is what I've realized. They're attorneys, they're surgeons, all these engineers, respectable careers, but in the inside they're kind of jealous a little bit, and they go, I wish I could be an artist. There are a lot of people like that. I've been really I've noticed that over the years in talking to people, and you'll see that a lot, where you'll see people who do these really high stress jobs, and then when they retire, then they go do something. Like an example, President Bush, 43. He has a studio. We got to work with the Bush Foundation a few years ago for quite a bit, so we got to know them a little bit, and it was a really great honor to just see them in a different light. And at one point, one of my colleagues and I were invited out to their ranch, Crawford Ranch, for a party that they had, and we got to walk into his studio, and he has the most beautiful studio just off to the side of the house, and it has like natural light coming in. You would love it, Catherine. Beautiful like view out over the prairie, and you would sit there and go, okay, whoever this person is, they were probably like an architect or something and made a bunch of money, and then, whatever. And you're like, no, this was literally the most stressful job in the world, the most type A kind of person who then left and decided, I want to do art. So I think that you get a lot of that from people, and you probably are like dealing proactively in those conversations with them, and you're sort of trying to frame yourself to defensively to not get some of that like attack or judgment, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the concept behind me saying and reminding people, oh, I do it full time, is so that people know that this is what I do for a living. It's not something I do on the side. Like you said, it's not something that's just a hobby. It's something that I've built my entire career around, and something that I obviously hope to get better at over the years, and to continue to invest in myself and my work and my business.
Did you ever feel like you had to be like weirder? Like how a lot of artists are intentionally a little weird, like Zoolander kind of thing, where you got to wear dreads, or you got to do some, like stink a little bit, never shower or anything.
Well, I will say I'm a middle child, and I'm a bit quirky, so I feel like it kind of fits.
What's the quirkiest thing about you? What's the quirkiest thing about you?
The quirkiest thing about Catherine is the amount of dry shampoo in her hair right now. That rivals mine.
100%. Quirky thing. Okay. Well, this actually just happened yesterday, which is why it's fresh on my mind. One of the things that I do that drives my family absolutely insane is when I sneeze really loud, and it turns into like a scream on the tail end. I call it sneeze screaming. And my brothers are like, can you stop? And I'm like, no, it helps to get everything out.
It's very performative, right?
Every time you do it, you're like, it's fine. I'm an artist. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm an artist. Let me be.
It's fine. That's amazing. So much of what we'll talk about today, Catherine, is just, and one of the reasons I've always been so impressed with you is how bold you are. Like, you make these bold decisions in your life, and look, sink or swim, you do it. And I've always been incredibly impressed by that. You've already talked about doing that in the way of like, I'm going to pursue art full-time. I'm a full-time artist. Let's talk about the painted with lipstick kind of season of your life and how you jumped into that. Tell us a little bit about your friend that was diagnosed.
Yeah, so this was back in 2013. At that point, I had been doing art for a very long time. I had kind of experimented with every medium you could think of, especially all the traditional mediums that you learn in school. And then into college. And I'd gotten to a point where I really wanted to challenge myself, one, with a new medium, and two, I wanted to create a body of work that had a lot more meaning behind it and could have some sort of philanthropic aspect to it, to raise money. And so at the time, one of our good family friends, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 3, I believe. And she was diagnosed, and then within a couple of months, we had like 3 or 4 other women that we knew, whether through it being like my friends' moms or my mom's friends or distant relatives or things. We were hearing about all these women getting diagnosed, and I felt like God was kind of putting it on my heart to have breast cancer be the focus of my work and the concept behind what I created. And so I sat down with our family friend because I wanted to know a little bit more about her breast cancer journey and kind of get an inside view of what that was like, just to get some inspiration behind my pieces that I was going to create. And I asked her, I said, what's been the hardest part about your diagnosis? And I think for me, based on movies and things like that, you always assume that the worst moment is when you're in the doctor's office and you get the diagnosis, and it's that, that like climax. And she said, oh no, like I barely remember that, your brain just kind of takes over and blocks that out. And so she said, the hardest thing for me is that I've really struggled to feel beautiful and to feel like a woman through the treatment process, whether that's chemo, radiation, or, a variety of other types of treatment. And it kind of hit me because you hear that women lose their hair, but you don't realize there's so many other physical side effects to going through breast cancer or even cancer in general. And for women especially, unfortunately, our looks are so much of our identity as women. And once you lose that, and for a lot of women too, if they get a double mastectomy and they lose their breasts, it's like very in your face of like, I don't feel like a woman anymore. I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel empowered. And she said that her doctor had told her, you need to find something, even if it's something small, that you do that makes you feel beautiful about yourself. Because, as much as the treatments work, your mind and your body are so interlinked. And so if you're in a better headspace, your body can also respond better to treatment. And so she would put lipstick on before all of her chemo and radiation treatments. And she said it was the one thing that gave her a sense of control over her situation, made her feel beautiful, made her feel empowered. And she's like, I would put that on, and it was like my reminder of like, I'm a woman. I got this, like, I'm good to go. And it ended up having a really good response, not only for her mental health, but her physical health as well, and how she was responding to the treatment that she was getting. And I was blown away. And I was like, oh my gosh, a tube of lipstick, that was it. That was all that, made such a big difference for her. And I thought, okay, my artistic brain kind of kicked in, and I thought, it's interesting that something so small could have such a big impact. And that is the concept, like the very seed of my concept that I kind of grew off of. And I thought, okay, I want to create all of my work entirely out of lipstick. That'll be my new medium that I work with. That'll challenge me in a different way. And I started practicing with my own lipsticks, and they were so ugly. I was like, I can never show these paintings to anybody. It took a while to learn how to work with lipstick as a medium. And then my mom gave me some of hers. I had some friends give me some of their lipsticks. And then all of a sudden this light bulb went off of, oh my gosh, we're doing this donation base. Like, I want to use lipstick from women who've actually been, who've had experience with this disease, and whether it's them themselves or family members. And I want this to be a collaborative effort, me as the artist being the facilitator, but them being able to send their lipsticks in and have it be interactive. So my favorite part about my work is that all of the paintings I create come from 80, 90, 100 different women. It's not just my work. It's
so
all of
cool. There's just so many women that have such a small piece, but a big impact on the pieces that you create, like you said. I guess my first question to you would be, so you have the tool by which to create the art that you have in your head and your heart, right? But then, like, looking behind you, the boxing gloves, how do you decide what the subject of the piece is going to be? How do you decide, like, I see boxing gloves and I think about like the fight and respecting it and like just the power behind that. But talk us through some of the other pieces in the series.
Yeah, so I started with my body collection. There's 4 paintings of the female figure. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to showcase parts of a woman's body that are feminine and beautiful that don't focus on the breast. I think a lot of times, especially women who have scarring, or like I said, who have to have their breasts removed, they feel like their body is no longer feminine. It's no longer beautiful. It doesn't have this allure behind it. And so my focus of the body collection was like, no, your body is beautiful. Like your shoulder, your collarbone, your wrist, your ankle, like there's so many beautiful aspects of the female body. And I wanted to kind of honor those. And then from that collection, I branched off into my floral collection. And that was a way of leaning a little bit more into something more symbolical. So obviously roses are very feminine. You know, you have these very beautiful, soft, delicate petals, but you also have this stem of thorns. And so I wanted it to represent that women, even though they're delicate and beautiful, they're strong and they're resilient and they can, you know, grow through anything. And that was conceptually why I went into florals. And then also from a business standpoint, I knew that not everybody wants to purchase a female figure or a nude of some sort of painting to put in their home. So I wanted to offer a different subject matter. So florals was a little bit easier as well. And then the boxing gloves, from that, I broke off into my actual symbolic collection, which Toe to Toe is a part of. The reason behind Toe to Toe is a couple of different things. One, I had been getting a lot of brown toned lipstick in my donations. And in the body collection, the 4 paintings that I have right now, it looks like a white woman. And I really wanted to collect enough brown shaded lipstick so that I could do a woman of color, because we know lots of women of color are diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yes.
But unfortunately, when I first started, I didn't have that much variety in those shades. So as my collection grew and I started getting the proper colors, I wanted to play with those colors first to make sure that I had confidence in that color palette before I attempted doing a woman of color for my body collection. So I thought, okay, what's something else that's kind of brown tone that can go along with the work that I have already? And I was looking around my room and everything's very pink and red and very girly. And I thought, okay, let's focus on a painting that's not so pink, that's not so girly. Let's have a little bit of masculine energy in there. And as also as a way to honor the men who are also diagnosed with breast cancer. I don't want it to feel like it's only women are being represented. So the boxing gloves, obviously, they symbolize the fight and the battle that people go through when they're battling cancer. And it gave me an opportunity to use all of my brown shaded lipsticks. And one of my favorite things about the painting, it took me a while to kind of figure out, was what composition am I going to do? Am I going to do the gloves on the table? Am I going to do the gloves on someone's hands? And I came up with having it looking like, I'll show it a little bit, having it look like it's hung up here. Just there's a nail there and they're dangling down. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted it to be up to the viewer to kind of interpret that painting and decide, are the gloves hung up because the battle was won? Or are the gloves hung up because the battle was lost? Or are the gloves hung up as an invitation to put them on to begin your fight? So I wanted it to kind of go a variety of ways.
Highly interpretive,
right?
Do
you do that? Like, can you, if you looked at that, would you have gathered that?
Well, I think the point of any great piece of art is that it's in the eye of the beholder. Like whoever's looking at it is going to bring their own.
My eyes are broken. I am truly like Ronnie Millsap. Like I would have never seen that. And that's what I love so much about this podcast, for example, is like there's people that maybe have seen that 500 million times that are like B group like me that don't have any talent. And like, that's incredible to me. Then there's the A group Kevins that were like, you could have probably elaborated on that for 45 minutes because you see just
it's so beautiful.
The way that you see things. And it's just incredible to me. That's so freaking cool.
Well, I it kind of got me thinking about just, different mediums. I love art, and we've got to go to a lot of different museums over the years. And one of the things about looking at a piece of art like in person versus say over Zoom, people are looking at it in Zoom, but they can't possibly catch, the intricacy of it unless they're looking at it. Like a couple pieces that blew me away. We got to see Vitruvian Man. So you were talking about the pieces, of the body and all that. And so Da Vinci, when he drew that back in the 1500s, I believe it was,
Right around the time you were born.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. He was a buddy of mine. We went to school together.
Old Pap.
Anyway, Leo and I, we go way back. Anyway, when he drew that, like he would study the human body for just, that's all he would do is like study. And he really applied a scientific mind to it. And, and so when he drew the Vitruvian Man, that was like the baseline for then all art to follow after that actually had real ratios that were correct. Mm-hmm. And so seeing that, I mean, it's no bigger than a piece of paper, in person, and they only bring it out every once in a while. It's in Italy. I think it's in Venice, if I'm not mistaken, in their art museum. But seeing that in person, going, wow, this has influenced so many people. And then there was another time where I saw a Van Gogh in person, and I don't remember which one it was. I think it was one of his self-portraits in a museum, and his brushstrokes are crazy. Yeah. Have you ever seen a Van Gogh in person? Like where they pile up?
It's so different seeing art in person. It is night and day. And I actually have luckily had the experience within my own studio where I have people come in during our open events, and some of them have followed me on Instagram for years, and then they finally come into the studio for the first time and they introduce themselves and they say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I came here in person. Your paintings look so different in person than in a photograph. And I was like, well, thank you for coming. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate it because it really does. It looks different. And then it's almost like you said in the brushstrokes, you can see the life that went into the painting. You see that it was created by someone who really spent their time making every single marking perfect.
Well, so what would they say? So that's exactly great. So, because it's exactly what I was going to ask you is if someone was standing in front of, say, that painting behind you, or toe to toe, what would they say about it that they would see in person? What have they said?
So one of the things what they mentioned was the scale. It's hard when you post a photo onto Instagram because it's so small, right? It has to fit on your screen. And so a lot of them don't realize how large these paintings are until they come in person. And just being able to see all the details as a whole is really captivating. A lot of times when I try to share detail shots on social media, you have to zoom in and do like little clippings here and there. So it shows detail in a certain spot, but being able to see the detail within the entirety of the piece is really, really awesome for people to see in person because they can actually see, for example, on my boxing gloves, there's the laces up here where it's laced and tied. And then obviously the lace that goes up and connects with this one. There's a detail in there that I added in at the very end, and it's hard to see in a photograph, but it's easier to see in person. And what I did was when I finished the painting, the laces had no texture to them, and it drove me crazy. I was like, okay, something's wrong. This isn't looking right. These laces look like tubes. And it clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, there's no texture in them at all. And laces are this, beautiful woven texture and design. So I came up with this idea last minute of, obviously there was lipstick where the laces were. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take a razor blade and I'm going to scratch like a little crosshatch pattern all throughout the laces. To show that it's, an actual lace instead of this, weird tube of yarn or something like that. And all of my friends and family were like, don't do it, because this painting took me about a year to complete. And they were so scared. They're like, you're taking a blade to it? Like, what if you cut it?
It's wild.
So I did it very slowly and I held my breath the whole time. But adding that detail in completely changed the painting. And that's one of those, those small details that's so much easier to see and appreciate in person.
You're such a rebel. Wow. One of the questions you have big news, and we're going to get into your big news here in just a second, because I know that as much as I would love to talk to you all day, I know that you have a lot of things to get to today because of your big news. But just one quick question I had for you. We've talked about this in the past, like this new trend is like all these influencers on social that like make noises and people are obsessed with their noises. And
ASMR.
I say it again.
ASMR. My teenagers are always telling me about it. It drives me insane.
Yeah, that. And so, Katherine, you have that with pulling the tape on your paintings. Yeah. So I know the noises that you create on purpose and how it satisfies all of us. But my question for you is, do you have like a Bob Ross, like swish, swish, swish? Like, do you, like, you sneeze like a freak? Do you do anything weird when you paint with lipstick that people would be like, that's weird? Like, do you make weird noises that you're aware of?
I'm weird all the time in my studio. I sing a lot in my studio, which I usually put my headphones in. This is more geared towards like late night hours when I'm in my studio, where I assume that there are not people in the building, but there probably are. There are a lot of nights where I'll have my AirPods in and I have a playlist of all these worship songs that I just love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, especially when I'm really stressed out, I try to remind myself that the work that I'm doing is for a greater purpose, and that God has really led me along this path, as untraditional as it is. And it's kind of my way of blowing off steam and being able to paint and just kind of inviting Christ into my space and thanking him for all the things that he's not only done in my life this far, but all the things to come that, it might be hard for me to see right now.
It's your Guardians of the Galaxy moment. Like, you put on your headphones and like, that's just like your true space.
Oh yeah.
So you talked a little bit about the Lord and how he's been such an important part of your journey and your mission. You have got to tell people, I think this is literally like, you're going to get the goosies. Talk about your big news.
The goosies?
The goosies.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Keep going. Sorry. Just had to call that out for all the people that are cringing here.
People say goosies.
Okay.
So you literally are in Houston right now. You're in your beautiful studio where people maybe that are watching have seen you a million times. They've maybe purchased some of your art there. But what's happening next, and how did we arrive there on the big decision?
Oh, okay. This is a long story. I'll try my best to kind of break it down for you guys. I've been in Houston for the last 8 years in this building. And as much as I have loved working here, I have known in my heart that it's coming to a point where I need to move on to other things, better things, bigger things. And that decision led me to decide to move to New York in October. So my lease is starting very quickly. I have done 0 packing. But it was so I'll kind of back up a little bit. Last year was a wonderful year for me. I did so many great things within my business, had so many amazing events, did wonderful collaborations. I
donated a lot to charity. We would be remiss if we didn't say, you won't give yourself credit, so I'm going to give you credit. You have done amazing things for National Breast Cancer Foundation, and the donations that you have given us have genuinely helped women and families when they needed it most.
Oh, absolutely.
So thank you for that. You're making a big difference, but keep telling your story.
Thank you very much. Last year was great, but towards the end of last year, I felt this feeling of being very unsettled. And especially come January, February, I had this immense feeling and this conviction of, I need to get to New York. I need to get to New York. And it kind of came out of nowhere. I've always loved New York, but I didn't see it in my realm of possibilities, at least anytime in the near future. And for about 2.5 months, I was seeing these, what I like to call God winks, everywhere. And I'm not joking when I say everywhere. I would turn on the TV, it'd be about New York. I'd turn on the radio, it'd be about New York. I'd open up my phone, it was all New York everywhere. Even so much so that my mom came to my house one day and she goes, "Hey, I found this in the attic and I feel like, it's just sitting there. So I brought it over so you could have it." And it was an I Heart NY New York mug that I bought the first time I ever went to New York. And it was just constant, 20, 30 different New York references every single day for over a month. And I was getting very overwhelmed by it because I could not figure out what was going on. I felt really heavy on my soul, and I wasn't really happy with where I was personally and professionally in Houston at the time. And I had a very vulnerable crying out to God on my way home from my studio one night, and I just broke down in tears. And I say it was like my angry prayer time. And I was like, God, I don't know what the heck is going on. I am seeing New York everywhere. Am I going crazy? Is this something that you're trying to show me? Is this something you're trying to tell me? And I said, I know I'm not really happy with where I am right now. Is this me creating this narrative so I can run off to go do something else? And so I said, God, if you want me in New York, I need a very clear sign from you. And if you show me that this is where you want me to be, I'll go. I'll leave everything. I'll leave my friends, my family, my relationship at the time, my studio. I'll leave everything and go.
Bold.
Yeah, it sounds bold saying it. It's less bold actually having to do it.
You're like, I have a stress rash, but yes.
Shit. I'm like, wait a minute, can we backtrack? And then, but I said, but if it's my voice, I don't want to blow up my life because I'm confusing myself and I'm thinking I'm hearing something from you, but it's me wanting this. And so I won't get into the sign specifically, but I asked for a sign that was so random and something that I never, ever, ever see, where I was like, surely if I stumble upon this sign within the next couple of weeks, I'll know that this is God telling me that I need to go. So again, long story short, I ended up getting that sign 3 times within 24 hours in the most aggressive manner, where it was so hard for me to ignore it. And I did. The first time I saw it, I bawled my eyes out because it hit me like a train. And I had this feeling of like, oh my God, like God is speaking to me. Now all of a sudden, like you said, it went from being bold to being very scared. And so I tried to put it out of my mind. Oh, this isn't happening. This is, I'm just imagining it, blah, 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 blah. So it happened again. And again, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to ignore that this is happening. So the third time, God was like, okay, like you asked for it, I'm giving it to you, like stop ignoring it. And the third time it really hit me. And again, I said it was within 24 hours, all 3. And the first thought that popped into my mind, where looking back, it was such a random thought. It was God speaking to me in my mind. And he reminded me of the story of Peter in the boat. So for those of you who aren't aware, there's a story in the Bible of the disciples are out on this boat and they get caught up in this really bad storm. And they see Jesus walking on the water towards them. And at the time, they don't know that it's Jesus. They think it's a ghost. And they're terrified and they think they're going to die. And Jesus says, do not be afraid. It's me. And one of the disciples, Peter, says, Lord, if it's you, call out to me and I'll come to you on the water. And Jesus says, it's me, come. And the moment I got that third sign, I thought about that story and instantly I thought, oh my God, Peter had to get out of the boat. I've heard that story so many times that I've never thought about the fact that Peter always had a choice whether he got out of the boat or not. And Jesus said, come, it's me. Like you asked if it was me and I'm telling you it's me. Come on, like, let's go. But he could have stayed in the boat. And if he stayed in the boat, there would have been no story. And I immediately was like, oh my God, I'm Peter. Like I asked God, if this is you, I'll do it. And he said, it's me. Come on.
Get out of that Houston boat, girl.
To get out of the boat. And so for me, it was a huge testing of my faith because I thought, I know what I believe and I know what I believe is true. And if I don't move in faith, then what is that saying about my faith? And then he was really testing me. And so I said, okay, and again, there were so many miracles that happened after that continued to lead me and guide me, that also reassured me, like, God is very much pulling me out of my situation and taking me to New York. Why? I have no idea. I hope it's for my business. I hope it's for my work and that I can get wonderful exposure up there. But my parents, reminded me, they actually made a really good point. They said, you have no idea why you're going up there. So you have to be open-minded. But that's the news. I'm moving to New York. I have a studio apartment, I have a 1-bedroom apartment, but my studio is going to be in my apartment. Definitely a big transition because the studio that I'm in right now, I could put my entire apartment inside of it. So a huge downsize, and it feels like I'm taking all these steps back, but I know the thing that I keep reminding myself is God is in control. I know for a fact that God wants me here. He made it abundantly clear, not only to me, but my family members, my friends, like everybody that I've told all of these stories to and these signs is so blown away by all the miracles that have happened to get me to where I am right now. So I'm really excited for what's to come. I have no idea what's to come. Probably a lot of ramen noodles to get me through.
Here for it.
Yeah, Katherine, hearing that story that's so inspirational to so many people because so many people think that they have to play it safe, in their lives. And I just personally feel like I want to get to the end of my life and feel like I'm proud to tell the story of my life, that I took chances and tried things. I've tried to teach my kids that, they're 21 and 16, and I'm like, just let's go, let's do it. And, you got to set big, ambitious goals. And so doing that, I think no matter what happens with it, first of all, that you did what God put on your heart to do, which is always the right thing. And he's going to watch after you. But secondly, your life is this unfolding adventure. And like, what, I lost my brother. He was 49 when he passed away. And, there was a lot of things about his life. He didn't do some of the things that he wanted to do. And I've thought about that over the years, about how, like, for instance, he didn't get his pilot's license. He wanted to do that. And we talked about that a lot. We both did. And he didn't do it. So I went and did it after that and did it, in many ways for him. And I thought it's motivated me because I've looked at it and I've gone, you could do all these things and do it right and play it safe and all that. And you get to the end of your life and like, you didn't do anything that you're proud of or that was exciting. And so anyway, I just commend you for that because it's, you're going to look back at your time in New York, however long it is, and you're going to go, wow, that helped me become who I am today, no matter what ends up happening. So we're really proud of you for following that lead.
I can't wait to see you on the People of New York Instagram page. It's my favorite. It's going to be so good. But speaking of that, Katherine, before we let you go, please tell people where they can follow your journey. I think people are going to just fall in love with you once they hear your why, your heart, find out more about your medium, and just your story and your journey inspires so many people, myself included. But where can people follow your journey to New York and beyond?
Yeah, so my Instagram account is @paintedwithlipstick. I also have a website, paintedwithlipstick.com. I have work that's available to purchase online there. So if you want to support my journey financially, you can go and purchase reproductions of my work. If you're interested in pricing on my original paintings or commissioning a custom lipstick painting, you can also find that information on my website as well. And then lastly, this is something I haven't utilized a lot, but something I'm planning on utilizing more, especially once I go up to New York, is my TikTok account. I'm going to be doing a lot more content creation on my move, my apartment, kind of exploring the city and really giving people an inside look on my life as an artist in New York. So that is, I believe it's also @Painted with Lipstick. I try to keep everything very consistent so it's easy to remember.
I love it.
Make sure you get, I think your most viral TikTok will be your infamous sneeze.
Yes.
Just really lay one out there, super performative.
The sneeze
distort
scream.
The microphone.
Yeah.
And love it.
And you're singing while painting.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we love you. We know how valuable and precious your time is. And I just want to say thank you so much for carving out a few minutes to spend with us today. We're going to have you back for a part 2 so we can hear about how New York is going. Maybe you could preview your new studio apartment for us. And I know I personally look forward to coming to visit you there very soon and just seeing all the amazing
Are you in Manhattan? Are you going to be in Manhattan or are you?
I'm going to be in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn,
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
That's going to be so fun.
It's going to be amazing. Well, Katherine, we love you. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for igniting hope one brown shaded lipstick tube at a time. We love you so much.
Thanks, Katherine.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Welcome. Thank you, guys.